Hello and welcome back to another out of spec detailing video at a very different location than we normally are. We are here at the Wellington Maverick. It used to be Come and Go, but the reason for this is Jordan is actually taking the Gen 2 R1S on a range test, but we also have the Gen 1 R1S over here. And today we're going to be going through a build quality analysis on the new Gen 2. So welcome back and let's jump into it. So do apologize for the location change here, but we literally have one day with the Gen 2 R1S here. Jordan, run me through what this car is a little bit, if you will, where we got this from.
Yeah, this is the Gen 2 R1S dual motor with the LFP battery. So the smaller battery, this is kind of considered the base model, if you will. There's 4 different powertrains, 3 different batteries, I guess 2 powertrains, sort of, dual motor or dual motor performance. This is not performance. This is just plain old Jane dual motor. And still plenty of power, 533 horsepower, 610 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds, which you found plenty adequate.
Totally adequate,
drive.
For sure.
So, yeah, its price is tested about 80 grand, but that's just because of the color and the wheels. As base, it's like 75,900.
Okay. So this car is actually the test vehicle for Rivian down in Denver. So if you go to test drive the new Gen 2, this is the actual truck you're going to be driving, you know, walking around with, feeling. My question is, on this channel, we've covered quite a bit Rivian and how they've changed their build quality over time. I felt like the early ones were unbelievably nice, and then they started to ramp up production. A lot of build quality things started to become quite a bit of an issue, and then things started to taper back up as they built more and more. They built nearly 100,000 R1s as of right now, which is insane, Jordan. I mean, for Rivian being quite a new company in the space, pretty impressive stuff. But this one's got a lot of new changes, and I do expect this one to be nearly perfect, even though it's early. So this one over here is a July of 2023 build. This one is May of 2024. So very fresh car. But what I want to do with this is just walk around the exterior, look at the fit and finish, talk about a few things that have changed, of course, on the Gen 2 R1S, and really see how this thing feels. So we're going to really talk about exterior fit and finish, and then jump inside, see what's changed, see how things are feeling, and I guess really the base model. So Jordan, what's been your impression? You've driven R1 quite a bit. This NVH is substantially better, also rides better, totally new suspension components in the new R1S.
100% agree, and specifically R1S, as you mentioned, because R1T, the suspension didn't really change as much, but R1S, this versus that, really impressive. I mean, they moved the HVAC, like the AC compressor, a bit further from the cabin. It's further up here instead of like right up against the firewall.
Yep.
So that helps cabin NVH. Just all around it feels pretty solid. But it is interesting, Colton, because with a lot of Teslas, like, you know, when Model 3 first came out, build quality issues, and then as more production ramped up, they sorted those. We're kind of seeing a weird, not quite reversal, but like it's almost like people with the earliest R1s, some of them were pretty nice, especially with materials, whereas now with R1 we're seeing maybe some cost savings in materials because they're ramping up the cost needed for better software and stuff.
I've had a ton of questions of people asking when we're going to do a full build quality analysis and worried about the new interior fit and finish on these. Have they started cheaping out? There's a lot of small little changes. I think you'll really see that throughout this video. It's not like the truck is completely different, but it's just these small little refinements. And I would say refinements in some areas, not the greatest. So let's first start off, Jordan, where you interact with the vehicle the most, because this is my one absolute gripe here. So over here, the Generation 1 R1S, you grab the door handle, great mechanical feel, close the door, nice thud in there. Then you come over here and you have this electronic controlled door handle. And first off, doesn't sound great, Jordan. What do you think?
No, that's pretty bad.
Okay, let's close this too and hear this.
It just sounds like there's a lot of space and things, and maybe the added electronics are like, almost sounds like the added electronics are bouncing.
Yeah, it's just like they're not even bolted in, I would say. I mean, just for a quick comparison here.
Ugh.
It's rough. It's really rough. So door handles, not a huge fan of. You do have some touch controls here for walking up to the car with your key, only on the front end. But lots has really changed around here. So I want to walk around the exterior first here, Jordan. Maybe let's come around here. We'll go over to the charge port area. Now, what's been your impression with the truck as far as just driving it? Has it been rattly? Has anything like kind of wowed you or kind of been a negative, I would say?
So we should know, I mean, this is a demo vehicle, as I said. I mean, it is, as far as I know, a production vehicle, but there is like a whistling from the, I'm guessing the front windshield seal maybe, in that area.
Okay.
And then otherwise, it seems pretty solid. I'm not hearing like noticeable rattles, and even with the sound system, not good sound system. It's fine. It's like it's serviceable, but it's not the premium. It's just Rivian's kind of standard built in-house system, and it's okay. But no rattles from that, even when cranked up pretty high, which is kind of impressive.
Yeah, really, really good in that regard. I would say, you know, the old R1, I just drove the Gen 2 quickly, not on the highway. I immediately jumped in the old one, and it just felt like a ton of wind noise in the cabin. So I'd like to do some more comparisons. Again, we don't have a huge amount of time with this. We're literally charging it. Jordan's going to take it on a range test, and then it's got to go back to Rivian tomorrow morning. But a few things going on different here, Jordan, just up front here in the charge port. Charge ports have always been, I would say, an annoyance for me, having these overly complicated, very fancy control ports here. And you can see this one is, I don't even know what to say about that. Yeah, Kyle's gonna go try the other one. Yep, we gotta unlock this one over here. So they've changed.
Gen 2 worse.
Yeah, Gen 2 immediately, just the touch controls on the outside worse. So
This is bad too.
this is bad, but you can't push this forward. So they've changed the whole mechanical structure in here that you can't push this forward. I was playing with that one earlier. You can just totally switch that, which is okay.
Maybe it's good because people are crashing into this and breaking.
That could be. Didn't yours fall off your truck? Yeah. Yeah, so that's always been a complaint of mine, is just overly complicated charge ports. You can see the light is now gone on the Gen 2, and we also have a button over here to basically eject your charge port. What is weird to me, Jordan, and you saw me literally do this, I tried to press this to close it. Why don't you have a button just to close it instead of this? I don't know. But yeah, you can see all that play in there. That I immediately, just the touch points on the outside, a little bit of a letdown, I would absolutely say. Now, one area that's been, I would say, one of the worst areas on Rivians for build quality is these large, massive hoods. These hoods, because they're powered, which is awesome, open and close, they seem to move over time. Funny enough, my brother-in-law, John, that has an R1S Rivian Blue, his truck came in and I was like, dude, this thing is put together so freaking nice. He then took it out on kind of a little camping trip, parked the truck a little crooked. His hood completely sunk in the back. And you'll notice back here, this on this side looks fantastic, but over time, this is what starts to happen where the hoods start to sink. It's just because they're so heavy in my impression, and these kind of joints in here don't really hold up to how much weight is actually on here. So Kyle's gonna go ahead and pop this up. Nice smooth actuation going on here, and a lot's changed up here, Jordan. A ton has changed. So just show the viewers through that, and I'll pop this up.
Yeah, so we now have a reversible floor thing, so half floor, I guess. You can choose carpet or hard rubberish stuff. And now instead of having the net up front, you have little tiny net things in the back.
Because the HVAC is up.
HVAC is now under here somewhere, maybe under here. There's also new stuff under here, I think, but this is all segmented down here. Still got the drain, which is great.
I use that all the time when I'm, you know, detailing these trucks. These areas get very dirty. A lot of people just throw boots and things like that. Amazing to be able to just quickly rinse that out. One thing I have to praise Rivian on is just this. Having a built-in mat with carpet, one negative with this, Jordan, I immediately said, okay, so you throw muddy boots on this, how do you clean this? Because you don't want to rinse it out, soak the carpet. That's going to get mildewy and moldy and nastiness in there. So again, over here, this is the Gen 1, a little bit different. Apologize for the dirt in here, but definitely you can see a little bit more storage, I would say, underneath here.
A little bit more, yeah. They just have more compartment stuff over here on the new one. But yeah, here's the net up front here instead of back behind. And this is, you know, separated, segmented, rather than the one big piece from the other side.
Yeah, I would say honestly not a huge difference. I don't think most people are going to really notice a massive difference in change in size in here. So yeah, I like that. Any comments you want to make, Kyle?
I just
Okay.
don't like the new lights.
Okay,
Kyle's
so
don't like
new
the
lights. That's one thing we definitely should talk about. I love the new lights. I really, really like them. So the reason I really like these is just how this basically lights up here on the new one compared to the old one. This one just looks more futuristic. Jordan, any thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I've pointed out before, I think in the video me and Kyle did comparing these, is like this is bright from most angles, whereas this one is only bright if you're looking directly on it. Kind of like some TVs look
Sure.
more dim when you're off center viewing axis. But yeah, the stadium light, as they call it, completely redesigned. Well, not really redesigned, same overall shape, but like everything's a little bit different around it. There's now matrix LEDs behind that, so that should add future capability of like smart brights on the highway and stuff. But yeah, the lights just look very different, and you can see through the screen, like us through the camera,
They're pulsing.
they're pulsing. Not to the naked eye. Like the naked eye, this just looks solid, but the way the phone frame rate is picking these up is pretty interesting because that chart doesn't do it at all.
Yeah, completely different there. And definitely moving down here, you can see this one doesn't have the optional tow hooks on it. I personally like this look a little bit better, kind of sleeks the front end out, but it's just all these minor little changes you start to notice around it. So Jordan, let's continue down the side here. Want to talk about a few areas on Gen 1 that I've seen be quite a large issue. This area here has been an issue for Rivian. And what I mean by that is basically the door comes in contact with the fender if they're not perfectly aligned. Drew's Rivian R1T that he just picked up, what was it, 2 months ago now, a month ago? His, Gen 1, you open this and it was literally contacting the door and the paint and just pulling paint off. So that's one of those areas, like people talk about build quality not being a huge issue, but these are annoyances that I've seen. I've also seen a ton of issues with the rear caps. Just noticing here, you can even see how tight the tolerances are there. Like, holy smokes, Jordan, that is like nearly touching there.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is Gen 1, of course. Moving back here, a lot of things moving around in these points. So these, Jordan, are always issues for me, is basically this area up here, all of these plastics, these seem to feel a lot better. And I see these be an area for a lot of wind noise, because essentially what happens is these start getting sucked out a little bit while you're driving down the road, and you can hear some wind noise throughout there. Gotta say the Gen 2 looking quite good in this particular area. Moving down the back, one area that I've always been annoyed with Rivian was these plastic pieces. They never really line up. They always felt like they're not clipped in so well. Over time, if they started producing vehicles, they're looking a heck of a lot better. So I'm glad to see that here. This one feels a little weak in that area, and they definitely have stiffened that up in Gen 2, at least for this one example. Now moving to the back, not much different back here other than the light bar slightly, Jordan.
And the light bar is even mostly the same. It's interesting because the front light bars are completely different, but the back have the same texture. So that means the new R, which now I'm forgetting which one's which.
Yeah.
the new R1 has a different texture light bar than the front. And even the turn signals, which we kind of glossed over on the mirrors, also try to mimic the front, but the back is different. However, you do have these lights here, 10 lights, which this is not showing the charging status for some reason.
That's a setting you can turn on. This also does hazards as well, I believe, which is quite a cool feature there. You know, if you're on the side of the road with a blown out tire or whatever. Lots of things have happened and changed with R1S on the rear ends since they started production. The rear cap, this has been an absolute nightmare of an area for Rivian to get right. What I talk about with this is kind of these horns that come up here. And basically, as you'll notice, they're still not lined up perfectly. One of the big issues with this is if they don't get the tolerances right in here, they do start to rub in this particular area, which can be quite annoying for a lot of folks. The other area back here, just talking about this rear cap, this back hatch has been quite a large issue, and it seems to me that they've fixed a lot of this over time. I've had probably 6 or 7 Rivians in my shop that have literally pulled paint off here because this hasn't lined up and it just starts taking paint off. So I think there's a lot of things that they've done here over time, not only on Gen 2 but on Gen 1, that they've really started to refine these things quite a bit more. This one looks fantastic, I would say. Just moving along here, all looking nice and flush. I would say this one sticks out a little bit and the trunk kind of sits in. That's a very big nitpick there, but honestly, walking down the side of the truck, I'm not seeing anything that's standing out to me like it has in previous times. Again, the plastics have always been a little bit of an issue. This one I can see, Jordan, is not perfectly flush. You can see this one sticking out a little bit, but I would say they're actually clipped in, which is really nice to see.
Yeah, there's a little bit of like waviness with the leather stripping up here. This is not quite.
Yep, totally agree.
And this is one point to mention. You can now get a blacked out version of this, which a lot of people have done aftermarket. So you can now order that as dark.
This material looks different to me than the old one.
You think so?
Yeah, it's almost more gray. Maybe it's just the light right now. I'm used to like my studio lights, but it definitely, that one looks more chrome to me and this one more gray. I don't know, it may just be the lighting.
This is also kind of rough in here.
Totally agree. And this is that same area that I was talking about that Rivian really struggles with. A lot of manufacturers really struggle with. Jordan, the mirrors have changed substantially on this. We now have a totally redesigned, basically housing the top of the mirror. So the light or the camera here is different. You can see the indentations are actually different. You have a new light bar on here as well.
To match the style of the front light bar.
Exactly. And then you still have this camera, but this is the newest camera that they've added in there, which is quite a cool implementation because they took it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I like these little kind of massaged things here. I do want to open this up and see. Yeah, this one's not contacting. I'm glad to see that. But Jordan, I can't get over these door handles.
It's a weird ASMR thing we got going on here.
I can't get over that. The door handles are a huge detractor for me, and I'm surprised that they went to these because I think most people, Kyle I know was like, Rivian door handles are the best. You just come in here, you grab them, it's like a nice handshake and you open them. And now you kind of feel this half a second delay before the door opens, and then you shut it and it just rattles. The back doors actually sound quite good compared to the front. So my impression of the exterior fit and finish, a lot of the improvements we've seen on Gen 1 are still being improved here on Gen 2. So I'm very happy to see that. Kyle, so Kyle's saying in the background there that the roof looks really good. Jordan, I don't know if you can kind of get a view up there. I do know these are a little tall.
It actually does look pretty good. I mean, neither is really bad. And of course they are glass roof.
Yeah, I would say it's really good.
This right here is a little bit off, as Kyle pointed out, which is true. Ooh, wow.
Oh, wow, that's really off. Yeah, that is completely warped. And that's warped on that side. One thing I just noticed back here as well, Jordan, they've totally changed these little plastic pieces here. So come over here, let me show you a big difference. So these never fit right, and you can see as I can push that down.
Oh, right.
And on Gen 2, completely changed, absolutely hard. I would hope that's something that came from my videos because I literally complained about every single R1S I had in the shop with that. I'm pretty impressed with the exterior on the R1S Gen 2, except the door handles. I think a lot of these nice improvements. Now I would say the biggest negative for me, you have to literally take out a microscope and see what the differences are, Jordan. Like, these park next to each other, genuinely, you could get confused which one is which.
I mean, yeah, remember when Model S refresh came out and it was just so obvious? And even Model 3 refresh now that we're dealing with.
Absolutely.
This really is a subtle refresh to the exterior though, but you know, over in Out of Spec Reviews, me and Kyle just did a video on, well, we sort of, his voice is really gone, by the way. We should have mentioned that.
Yeah. Yes.
But we mentioned a lot of changes are under the hood, so to speak. Like, it's manufacturing, it's the wiring now, the difference in ECU is a lot more streamlined, things that most people wouldn't even notice. So it is a bummer for people who buy the new thing because they want to look different, you know, the new iPhone that's a new color. This is not exactly that. If they had, why didn't they bring back Compass Yellow with Gen 2? That would have been awesome.
I totally agree. We need a petition to bring back Compass Yellow because it's an amazing color.
Start that right now.
Absolutely amazing color.
The interior is the base interior.
And that's a great point. Kyle just said off camera here, this is actually the base interior. And one of the questions I've been asked quite a bit is the new interior cheapened out a lot? Jordan, my impression is not really. There's some things inside that feel, I don't know. So let's just jump inside here. First off, what you'll notice here on the door panel, completely changed this component, having an electronic button to get out. Very similar to Tesla. My impression from that is I don't like it. I like the mechanical feel. I get where they're going here for the electronic. I do have to say, electronic door handles, I'm not a huge fan of. I've been locked in multiple Audi e-trons from it. It drives me nuts because the car somewhat goes to sleep. You do have that. Yes, I do know that.
And what's funny is I want to mention, I've been driving this for the last 24
grabbing
hours.
this.
I keep grabbing that, which is okay, by the
It's
way.
like everybody who gets in a Tesla that wants to pop the, you know, mechanical handle here is a little
the Tesla
interesting.
yells at you when you do it because it's a frameless door and the window thing doesn't go down. But this is the
Exactly.
frame door. Doesn't really matter, I don't think.
I'm a big framed door guy because for one, it's wind noise, it's rattles, which I don't know where the rattles are coming from in here. They really need to fix that. Few things different that I'm noticing right off the bat in the base trim. One of them, new floor mats stored. I don't think anybody's talked about this, but this is their amazing carpet material that they've used basically on the rest of the truck. And I'm very impressed by this. It cleans up so nice. It doesn't hold a lot of dirt. But these are completely new. The old ones in Gen 1 were, the only way I can tell you is like basically a patio chair.
Right.
And they were kind of this texture, and you would flip these things over and you could vacuum them out from the back. And it was like, they just held so much dirt. Kyle's bringing over the Gen 1 mat over here.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of cool because it adds a pop of color in there. I vastly prefer this. Does it look cheaper to me? I would definitely say it does.
Yeah, these look cool.
On the tri-quad.
So you can get this on the Tri-and Quad, like Kyle was saying. I also bet you could just purchase these separate and just put them in, you know, your base trim here. My personal preference, though, would just be to have these mats. Now, the white mats, if you get the Glacier, not the Glacier interior, what am I talking about? Ocean Coast interior is one of those that these completely stain because they're bright white. So I would much rather have these if I had the Ocean Coast interior, or yeah, I don't know.
Right.
Interesting deviation there. One thing I'm also noticing, the pedals, Jordan. The pedals are now completely rubber instead of the aluminum on there. I personally prefer the look of the aluminum ones, but over time when your, you know, shoes are wet, getting in and out, they can become a little bit slick. So
Right.
yes, Tri-and Quad, you can get that, of course.
Again, the base model. And one thing we didn't mention is I think sometimes this feels a little bit cheaper. There's even a bit of a squeak happening there.
You know, I was telling Alyssa that when we were driving over here, the plastics around here do feel a little bit more plasticky, and I'm not sure that they're that much different. This could just be a new supplier, but I work with these areas a lot, just cleaning them, and this plastic to me definitely feels a lot cheaper in my impression. The seats feel near as makes no difference, identical. I don't think anything's really changed with them, Jordan. I do know there are different options when you get into Tri-Quad motor, which are going to be really impressive. What's the slate blue one? I think is just the best.
Yeah.
The kind of light brown wood on the dash, and then you have kind of the two-tone seat, different stitching. Kyle doesn't like the actual stitching on the seat, but I'm glad that they're starting to come out with quite a few different things on here. Jordan, the stocks feel different on this as well.
A little bit, yeah.
I don't really know what is changed, but they just feel different. It's
They're notchier? That's what Kyle's saying.
yeah, much notchier here. And what's interesting for pilot assist here, you actually pull it instead of pull it straight down,
You
which,
pull it towards you, yeah.
okay, interesting. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it threw me off at first when I got in the
Sure.
car and tried to, and it was like, why are you trying to shift? And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I wasn't reading the screen right.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of small little changes though. This material here, the color has stayed the same, but they've actually kind of knurled this edge a little bit more, kind of rolled it over. Just like weird little things that I'm noticing throughout this that have slightly changed. I don't think 99% of people are going to notice. We do here have the redesigned center console, as you can see, with a little bit of a notch there to keep your phone from sliding, to keep it on the wireless charger. Kyle, what's your impression been of the wireless charger in Gen 2? Doesn't work as great?
Better, but it pulls up my Apple Wallet
Okay,
every time, and they say this software fixes it, but it doesn't fix it.
okay.
Right, so that's the thing to know is beforehand, if you had a key card to start the truck, like if you were borrowing someone's truck, you swipe the key card over here.
Yep.
Now there's an RFID chip within here, which is also where the wireless charging Qi coils are. And so now the phone, I think, is reading the RFID thing, thinking, oh, this is a pay terminal. but also I'm charging, and so the phone's just like kind of confused.
Yep.
And the notch or ridge does help with sliding laterally, I guess, but it still slides forward.
Yep.
Over the cubby and then loses connection anyway. So
yep.
Half fixed. Depending on your G-force direction, it's fixed.
None of us at Out of Spec really use wireless phone heaters at all.
Real enthusiasts don't use
plug
those.
that thing in. Like, our phones are constantly dead filming all the time. So yeah, a good improvement there, but it's just like it's half baked. And that's why I feel like some of these little changes, like the door handles, they're just half baked. I'm not sure they're going to be able to change those with software. That's a hardware thing in there. So I would like to see a little bit of improvement there. Honestly, nothing really different in the front end, nothing really different in the rear end here as well, other than, of course, you have buttons. Should be known, ours is missing a window switch.
Usually window switch there. Again, demo vehicle, someone just pushed too hard. And by the way, no emergency release here. To get to it in the rear, you have to take the door card like off.
Yeah, so that's a weird safety thing. Like, why not have that there? I don't know.
Hide it down here. Yeah, there's a few.
Yeah, totally agree. That's definitely been strange. Honestly, the rear seats of the R1S have been always quite good. I would say my biggest complaint with them is just space back here. Also, the implementation, if you do have small kids, moving the seats up and down can be a little bit cumbersome. They're also very heavy. So moving this essentially, and then you're sliding this back, it's very heavy. It's hard to do with one hand and a kid in your arms, and then put that back. It's just a little strange. This is an area that I'm shocked they didn't fix in Gen 2, to be honest.
Yeah, it's not bad, but you're right. If you're like a mom with a kid trying to just navigate things and you got bags in one hand, it's just not conducive to that.
Totally agree.
But we do have heated second and third row, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree.
Everywhere, yeah.
And Kyle, they're improving soon over software updates. The rear ventilation stuff going on. Have you heard that?
Get its own climate.
Okay, so second row.
It's just a fan.
Second row gets its own climate. Third row gets just a fan, which for us is a big thing. We have a lot of dogs. Kyle and Alyssa have 3 dogs. I have 3 dogs as well. If I want an R1S, I need them to be cool back here. And I think a lot of folks have a lot of issues with the big panel glass roofs. One thing I'd like to see, Jordan, do you know if you can actually option the chromatic roofs on the cheap ones?
I don't know if that's configurable.
It should just come standard, in my opinion.
Yeah, I didn't see that as an option.
Yeah, a Toyota Venza
has it. When I was building with the configurator, it wasn't an option. So as of this recording, it's not an option. Maybe they'll add it. Maybe they're still sorting that out. I don't know. But
I know those are ungodly expensive.
But they're cool.
They're so cool, and they're so helpful for just keeping heat out. And what I see a lot of people do is tint these roofs, and they put ceramic tint on them, and they go really dark. And I've seen a ton of forum posts of Rivian's glass cracking on the roofs because of the heat. Basically, the film just sits there, kind of bakes into it, and it's sitting right on the glass and can cause it to crack. I do have to say, Rivian, in my impression, makes some of the weakest glass out there. They chip really easily, especially the front windshield. And we've seen a lot of sunroofs actually being cracked. Even I saw one yesterday that a lady had a kid in the back seat that sat up too quickly, hit her head on the glass roof, and it completely broke it.
Oh my God.
Which is insane. So my impression of Gen 2, lots of cool little changes, but still, I kind of wish they went crazy. Like, I wish maybe they took more of the styling cues of the new R2, R3, R3X, all of that, and really made this thing more unique. But I don't think it's a huge detraction. I just think this car it's slightly getting better. The software has been incredible that Kyle and Jordan have both been covering. Any other thoughts from you, Jordan?
Suspension's good.
Suspension's good, yeah. I mean, it is nice refinements that I think a lot of people would value and appreciate. I sure do, and I think I'm willing to accept those trades over some of the maybe slight compromises with the doors, although that's crazy how disappointing that is, and I didn't realize how much I cared about that.
I say this all the time because every single build quality review I do, when you get into a car, your first interaction point is a door handle. If it feels cheap, you're initially feeling like, ooh, they've cheaped out on this. Mercedes EQ line is just heinously bad. And then you start touching all the stuff in it and it's creaking and rattling. That's the first experience you have. A lot of people don't like, Tesla door handles like Model 3, Model Y. Model S has had a lot of issue. But just having an overly complicated door handle to me is kind of crazy. Like, Rivian literally reinvented the wheel and made it arguably 10 times worse in my impression, just off the bat of the door handles. Like, just turn them back.
Right, revert it.
Yeah, revert it. So honestly, I would say Gen 2, nice improvements. Still think there's a little bit dialing in here and there, but honestly, build quality wise, fit and finish outside has been considerably getting better and better. And I think it's impressive for how many cars they've built and how they've kind of changed and listened to a lot of folks over the past couple of years of doing business.
Yeah, still a few issues on this one, as we noted, but again, it is early. I'll be really curious to see how Gen 2 like later VINs are going to be compared to this one, and I'm also going to be curious on tri-motor and, you know, whenever the quad motor comes out, how are those going to look and feel? How's the interior going to be? Like, we'll continue to cover Rivian as they progress.
Because this interior is easy for you to clean.
Yeah, and I do have to say that I made a post about this last week saying Rivian, in my impression, makes the best interiors out there. And RJ actually retweeted it saying that they really focus on durability of materials, cleanability of materials, which is a huge improvement from basically every other manufacturer out there. Yep. So Jordan, I would say Gen 2 base model interior, I'm not upset about it at all. It's not offensive. It's not like I really feel like they cheaped out a lot by any means, but it is starting to rain, and I think it's time for us to end and Jordan to get on a range test. So thanks so much for watching another out of spec detailing video. We'll see you in the next one soon. Bye-bye.